pleasure to talk to you today about an amazing project that we've got the privilege to work on, myself and my colleagues here, the A417 Missing Link in the Cotswolds, beautiful part of the world, and really interesting scheme on lots of levels in terms of the scope and some of the interesting things that we're doing to give back to the communities and the design itself. So hopefully we can give you a bit of a flavour of what we're doing down there. That's the agenda for today. So I'll kick off with a bit of background on the scheme, how it was set up, and the sort of stage we're at the moment. And then I'll pass to my colleagues on my right there. So Kathleen's going to talk about the design, how we're doing a landscape-led, environmentally led design with some really impressive structures on the scheme. Mike's going to then talk a little bit about how we've integrated the team with the planning, using lots of digital tools in a really efficient way to deliver the work. And then Lydia's going to talk us through her journey on the scheme, and also some of the digital quality tools that we're going to use as well to deliver a really high quality product. And then I'll just close out with a few highlights, innovations and awards, and interesting things we're doing in environment and the carbon areas. So yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm Gavin Jones. I work for Kia as a project director on the project. And to tie it into where we are today on the Interchange conference, we're going to focus on those areas. So like I mentioned, we're down in the Cotswolds, beautiful part of the world, area of outstanding natural beauty. We've got triple SIs right next to where we're working. It's a really key component of what the project is all about. And the carbon kind of agenda is really important to us as well. And we've had quite a few successes on that front through the design phase into the construction phase. And then we'll talk a little bit as well, like tying into the digital and data and the integration side of things as well, particularly with the planning and quality things that I mentioned earlier. So hopefully those key kind of topics will come through. So a little bit of background. I know Kia have been here yesterday, so hopefully you know who we are. But we've got a really good footprint across the country via the construction, infrastructure, and property parts of the business. But myself and my colleagues, we work in the transportation business unit, which is part of the infrastructure business. So we're primarily delivering roads and things like that, hard civil engineering. But I think for me anyway, and the project, it's a pleasure working for Kia because of that mindset of it all linking together. And we've been quite successful on the A417 of sort of showcasing and utilising the end-to-end capacity and capability in Kia. So we've used lots of different parts of Kia, so Kia Utilities, Kia Technology, Kia Design, Nordis, and various other parts of Kia to help us deliver best value for the client whilst keeping it in-house as much as we possibly can. And I know there was a talk yesterday regarding Kia Design that Jordan Flint was involved in, so I won't go into too much detail on that, but I think this is a bit of a jewel in the crown of Kia, and it's really been helpful on the project. We've had a professional services alliance where Kia, Tony G, RPS and Arup have been working together to take the outline design through to detailed design, and then we've been implementing it in the construction phase. But having that in-house capability, that ability to talk within Kia, get the right answers, and then draw upon the specialists with Tony G, RPS and Arup has been really, really central to us delivering a successful scheme. And then the kind of the digital side of things, so the rest of the team will talk a bit more about this in their sections, but that's at the heart of what Kia do and how we do it. And on the project, we've got lots of practical examples of how digital is, the first thing we think of. Digital is the way that we make it smooth. Digital is the way that we capture the right data. We can learn from things, take actions in a quick fashion, and give the client what they're after. So getting onto the background of the scheme a bit more. So we work for National Highways. They're the client. We're working under the RDP, Regional Delivery Partnership framework, under the RIS2 strategy, which is soon to be RIS3. we're both the principal contractor and the principal designer, which again is great. It's a design and build scheme. We've got really good control over what we're doing out on site. We could shape that design to make sure we've met the criteria of the client, the stakeholders, really, really in-depth engagement with the stakeholders around the scheme to give them a project they can be proud of and enhances the area, as well as delivering the outcomes. It's a target cost, NEC 4, 517 million budget, and the construction phase is 4.5 years. But before that, there was a long time to get to where we are now. I think it's about 30 years in kind of process. This project's been trying to get off the ground. The reason it's called the Missing Link is very clear. It's the last piece of this section of network that is single carriageway, and it's taken 30 years because it's in a very difficult geological area. Big escarpment, very steep hill, the steepest section of road in the National Highways portfolio. The last section of single carriageway in the National Highways portfolio. So it's almost like the most difficult one's been left till last. But it's our pleasure and privilege to be able to deliver that very hard scheme that people thought couldn't be delivered. It's located in the Cotswolds, really beautiful area, and like I mentioned, lots of protected areas nearby with the Triple SI and Cotswold National Landscape. But it's in a really critical route. So you have that kind of triangle there of the M5, M4, and A417 corridors, and currently it doesn't work. There's a bottleneck on the A417 as it stands now, so whenever there's an issue on the M4 or the M5, traffic gets funneled down the A417 and it just can't cope. There are lots of accidents, lots of congestion, that's carbon, that's emissions in the air, that's running through villages nearby, and it's a drain on what is a lovely part of the world. You've got these very small picture postcard villages that have vast amounts of traffic going through it. So when we're finished, that will be free flowing, and you'll have that trip from Gloucester to Swindon without any hold-ups, and it's going to really help the area. And like I say, we've got an amazing groundswell of opinion from stakeholders in the area who really want it and been waiting for it for decades. So that's what it looks like on the right-hand side there. So it's kind of a game of two halves. The left-hand side, the horizontal kind of section on the screen, is online widening. So that's the existing A417, which is 3 lanes. We're going to increase that to 5 lanes. So we're building a new embankment parallel to the existing road. Then we switch the traffic and we're able to build the second half of it, creating the new 5 lanes up the very steep hill. And then the right-hand side, kind of going from northwest to southeast there, that's greenfield. So kind of roughly, I'd say about 45-55% split between online and offline widening there. But it's not just one road, so the A417 is the headline road on there, but we're also building a new section of the A436, which is parallel to the A417 for that half there, heading from Cheltenham and Oxford. And then we're building another road, the B4070, which is that bit in the middle there, going from left to right. That's a local access road going to the village of Birdlip. And then the final piece, which is my favourite part of the scheme, we're yet to start it, but it's going to be the detrunked section. So we take the old road, break out the tarmac, build a footpath, build a cycleway, build a bridleway, and link up all of those really nice long-distance footpaths of the Cotswold Way and the Gloucestershire Way footpaths that go for miles, but currently stop at a road. You have to suddenly cross an extremely busy road, and it's not very convenient for all those ramblers. So once we've finished, that'll be an amazing facility. It links up those footpaths. There's a lovely pub at the bottom of the road there, which will be a destination for sure. And linking up habitats, linking up stakeholders. We've got National Star College at the top of the screen there for children with additional needs. So we're opening up the area for them as well. So it's a really lovely scheme in terms of giving back to the communities and solving safety problems and solving issues with business in the area and solving tourism issues. So it ticks so many boxes. The benefit cost ratio was really good. It was over 2 at the time of tender, and it's continued in that way. So fantastic scheme in so many ways. It's an absolute pleasure to work on it and give back. That's kind of it in a few numbers. I won't go through all of them, but I'll pick out a couple. So you can see top middle there, the earthwork. So 1.7 million meters cube of earthwork. So that's the cut element. So that's mainly rock. We've processed the majority of that as well. So near about 1 million meter cube of processing on site. And then we've placed 1.7 million of that rock as well to create new embankments. And all that material stayed on site, so we're not transporting material off site. Everything we cut, we keep, and we use it within the works. And that's testament to the design team early on to adjust levels, adjust gradients on roads, adjust embankments to make sure we had that perfect cut-fill balance, and it's worked out really well, and we've saved a ton of carbon, well, more than literally a ton of carbon, through that. So yeah, currently beating the carbon target set by National Highways, and a decent proportion of that was through very clever design early on. Drainage, so 35 kilometres of drainage, so that tells a tale. It's a 3.5 mile long job. We got 35 kilometres of drainage. So, you know, that is a factor of the requirements in the design, but also, you know, having that care and consideration for the wider catchment. So we are keeping all that water on site, and we release it at a very slow rate so that existing systems aren't overwhelmed. And then a few in the middle there. So the Cotswold stone wall. So we have lots of visits week in, week out, and that is the number one thing that everyone wants to look at. It's an amazing, lovely piece of work, you know, by hand, by, you know, what effectively artisans on site. It's beautiful, and it's one of the many features, and Kathleen's going to talk a bit later about some of the things we've done in the design to make it incorporated into the landscape. And Cotswold stone walls are so synonymous with the area that you know, it's a really key part of it. And then on the right hand side there, so huge landscape areas. It's a landscape-led scheme, and that was, in my opinion, like one of the key reasons why we got the project off the ground. You know, working really hard with the stakeholders and National Highways. That tagline of landscape-led was more than just words. It was how we reassured the kind of communities, the stakeholders, anyone interested in the scheme, that we weren't going to have a massive road just running through the Cotswolds without any consideration for what impact that would have. So it shaped the design, and it shaped our kind of attitudes on site as well. It's really helped me delivering the works to have that landscape-led kind of title to make sure people are thinking about environment. It's not a second order thing to consider. It's right at the forefront of people's minds. And they were planting 130,000 trees as well, so huge numbers. And then bottom left, just on the structures, so Kathleen is going to talk about this in detail, so I won't go into it too much, but some really interesting structures, a variety of overbridges, underbridges, footbridges, some like very nice architecturally. The largest green bridge, can't call it a green bridge, but it's a green bridge in the UK, until Lower Thames do theirs. So yeah, really fantastic things that you'll see some great pictures of in a moment. And then coming to the end of my section before I pass over to Kathleen, but just give you a flavour of the journey of the scheme so far. So I got involved in 2022, but like I said, there was about 30 years before that people were talking about it. Our scheme alignment was option 32 out of 32 that was initially taken forward. That got I suppose a shortlist was then created of 5 options that went to the public, and this option number 32 was chosen in the end. Some went north of Cheltenham, some went south towards Cirencester, and there were tunnels in some of the options as well. But option 32 was kind of the one on balance that made the cut, and you know, provided the outcomes needed. So we took that through the DCO process, and proud to say we were the first scheme in National Highways to go through DCO without a single challenge, which for those of you that have been involved in DCOs, you know, that is really hard, and that was down to the communication and engagement and a hell of a lot of work with those stakeholders to make sure we were giving them what they needed, and the promises we've made, you know, we've lived up to in the delivery element of it. And then into 2023, so really important, and it was critical for the scheme as well. You know, we're in the area of the Cotswolds. There's Roman stuff everywhere. So we found thousands of artifacts. We found so many museums in the area couldn't take them. So, you know, landowners took the majority of the things because museums were already full. But some incredible stuff, you know, double burials, found villages, medieval ones, Roman ones. We found a Roman service station like your Moto on the M6. where they'd shoe their horses and have a rest and things like that. It's really, really interesting things and really important to find them and preserve them. And then equally important was the ecology side of things. So we moved, I think there's a slide later on with the numbers, but hundreds of lizards and snakes. Adders are quite rare, but not on the A417. There were lots of adders. We found a lot of adders and moved them on. Roman snails as well, so we found lots of those which we had to translocate. So we spent an entire year on the archaeology and ecology, stripping the topsoil and preparing works for the first earthwork season in 2024. So we moved about 1 million cube of earthworks that season, kicked off the structures. Then in 25, carried on those earthworks and the structures. And we are here now in 2026, final year of full construction, and we're aiming for an early open for traffic, so ahead of programme this December. And then in 2027, like I say, my favourite bit, we'll start that detrunking work and create that really nice facility for the public to use in the future of the NMU route. And then we don't go away. We've got another 5 years after that of the landscape and aftercare. And again, it's not an afterthought. It's really critical that those trees survive. And the landscape-led element of the work is comes to fruition. And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you. So I'll hand over to Kathleen, who's going to tell you a little bit about the design side of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello. My name's Kathleen. I'm an engineer on the A417. I was seconded to the project 2 years ago from the design office. I'm in my final year on the degree apprenticeship, and this has gained me the knowledge that I've never been on a site before, so understanding how construction industry works, learning the dynamics and organisation, what it takes to deliver a scheme such as this. So today I'm just going to be talking about the landscape-led design approach adopted for this project and how the different elements from the project, from the highways and the structures, all support the wider environmental vision. And I'll cover how the landscape itself shaped the scheme first off, and then I'll explain how connectivity influenced like the structure's locations and how engineering decisions support the sustainability. And the key focus for this section is connectivity through reconnecting habitats, reconnecting people, and integrating infrastructure into a nationally significant landscape, which is area of natural beauty, which is the Cotswolds. And just on the screen here is GWC Gloucester Shearway Crossing, which will be the largest UK green bridge when it's completed. And this is just one aspect. You can see the cut that Gavin was on about coming up down south through the A417, exposing the limestone of the natural Cotswold stone. So I'm just going to start first of all with the landscape itself. So the A417 design sits within the area of outstanding natural beauty and near ecologically sensitive areas. So during the early design stages, wildlife movement patterns and existing ecological corridors were monitored, and all this data which was collected that was put to the designers, and the wildlife movements from the data was analysed, and the 7 new bridges, one you can show there, which is Cotswold's Way Crossing, the footbridge, these all had like a purposeful space where they were going to be on the scheme due to the natural desired lines of both the wildlife and the public rights of way. So everything within the scheme itself has a purpose due to the ecological corridors within the area it's being built. And then just the photo to the right is just how during construction phase, not only in design, that we've incorporated protected measures, which you can see by the mesh, green mesh fencing, which again is that linear feature of allowing owls and bats to know where they're going, because during construction we've removed some of their trees, which we're replanting there that you can see. Next. Yeah, so here is just an example of what the scheme will be doing, connecting a variety of woodland and sites of special scientific interest, the triple SIs, near Barrowake and Crickley Hill. And this shows through the Gloucester Way crossing and Cotswold's Way how we've provided not only safe crossings but purposeful locations to do with the surrounding ecological corridors. And through this visual you can see how habitat fragmentation is being reduced through these green corridors linking the surrounding Cotswolds area. So not only is the corridors there, but we've also got linear features throughout the project, which Gavin mentioned the dry stone walling, which is an example of this. And linear features are continuous geometric lines that are highly beneficial for species. So these act as wildlife corridors which connect fragmented habitats, which when you're building a new scheme you would think that you are reducing that habitats, but this allows species to move, disperse and forage across all otherwise hostile landscapes, and they're crucial for maintaining the ecological connectivity and biodiversity. So on the project we've got 7.5 kilometres, and not only is it aesthetically pleasing, but it's got the small crevices and the gaps for natural habitats which can travel through and shelter through all seasons. The construction of the dry stone walling is traditional to the area itself, so there's no mortar, there's no foundation, it's just laid on the natural ground, and it's remarkable watching them like Tetris build it up. It's really, really good. And then another feature is the hedgerows, which you can see from this view. This is the Gloucester Way crossing. It's got the natural segregation of the footpath and the wildlife corridor. And again, it all just promotes that, reducing that habitat fragmentation through connectivity. So this is what Gloucester Way crossing will look like when it's finished, so from slide 1. And again, it's the largest UK bridge green bridge when it's finished. It reconnects Ullenwood on one side and Emma Woods on the other. And it's a safe passage for not only people, but bats, owls, badgers. And that hedgerow again is segregation for people and wildlife. So again, it's got purpose for where it is. And then when green bridges weren't ideal for the targeted place, we've got an underpass here, which is again using linear features of the hedgerow. So this is Bat Underpass, and where you've got them wing walls there, in front of them will be hedgerows, and it would be like a tunnelling effect. So again, such as bats, hence it's called Bat Underpass, will naturally know the desired line to get under there safely and cross. And again, it's all supporting the fact that every decision made through design has got a purpose. And then, so this is one of the main junctions on the scheme. And like Gavin was saying about the repurposing of material, so that 10% gradient at Crickley Hill, that's being reduced to 8%. And all of that material that was in there has been taken out, crushed, repurposed. And this originally was Shab Valley, and it was definitely a valley. It was huge. I remember 2 years ago, and watching it being built up and built up with all the same material coming from site. It's been remarkable. The coordination and organisation of everything, that again was through early stages of design. And then to the bottom, there's 2 attenuation ponds. So again, on the project, there's about 12 ponds. And again, they've all got purpose because the area, significant flood area risk. So it's been helpful throughout construction, as well as when we finish with surface water, as well as it's been lined with vegetation that again promotes the landscape biodiversity throughout. And then focusing on the structures, so they've all been integrated into the landscape in multiple ways. So the footbridges example is reconnecting people under the overbridges, and then there's Cotswold's crossing, and Stockwell Farm connecting farmers, and also the materials that I've used, so there's weathering steel, so it's reducing that visual impact that you would see from certain structures across when you're driving on the highway. And again on Sharp Hill you can see that Reckley finish, so it's a limestone effect put into the formwork of the wing walls, so the exposed parts when you drive through you'll get that limestone effect, which again relates to the dry stone walling along the highway. And again it's all sympathetic to the landscape around, and it's again reducing that impact. And then in general, just the engineering, which is supporting sustainability throughout the project. And I've listed a couple of things there because I can't get everything in within the 10 minutes. There's so much to talk about how this project enhances the landscape. And just some key things which aren't on there. There's initially, on the prelim designs, the bridges had multiple piling, but again, designers found a way to reduce that amount of piling, reduce the deck thicknesses, so all these reducing of concrete, it reduces the total carbon used. And then within the concrete itself, it's got high mixes of GGBS, reducing that cement mix. And throughout, no street lighting, complying with area of outstanding natural beauty. And then throughout construction phase as well, we've used solar lights wherever we can. And then for our connectivity throughout construction phase, we've got haul roads which use cement stabilizers, which at the very end of the project can, all that material can be repurposed and used elsewhere. So again, it's always forward thinking and sustainability where we can. And then of course, you've got the repurpose of the old A417 at the very end. So just to summarize, so the A417, it just demonstrates how infrastructure can be delivered in a way that supports both transport efficiently and environmental restoration. It highlights how engineering and landscape design can work together to deliver infrastructure that is sensitive, sustainable and future focused. And now I will pass on to Michael.
Hi everyone, thanks for attending. My name's Michael O'Sullivan. I'm a senior planner on the A417. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we plan on our project and how we identified a need for change, previously using very traditional methods of planning and capturing data. But we've now moved on and tried to digitalize our approach and how we've gone about that. So firstly, starting with our reporting life cycles. So we have both a monthly and a weekly life cycle. So the monthly, we have a requirement to report to our client with a program contractually. We update this on a monthly basis, take 12 weeks of information and import that into AFEX, which is our short-term planning tool. I'll touch a bit more on that later. We also take our quantities out of this program and reforecast them to understand what we've done to date and then what we need to look at moving forward. We then have our operational team update our AFEX, hold monthly collaborative planning sessions, and then the cycle starts again. It's also very important that throughout the weeks we maintain a weekly life cycle. So we ask our project teams to update their AFEX every week, Monday 5 p.m. We then update a dashboard that holds all of this information and captures all the data that has been generated, and we present that to our client and then also to the rest of the team on a Wednesday in the weekly collaborative planning sessions. On Thursdays, we look at targeted areas of site, so particular areas of concern that we need to look at. We do this in the same manner, using AFEX, using our digital approach to look at this information. And then close a play on Friday. We gather all the materials that have been completed in the week and restart again. And then throughout this whole process, we have AFEX again, our short-term planning tool. That is updated by our operational teams on a daily basis, putting as much information as they can into there and having live information ready for everybody to see. One thing we were very keen on at the start of the project was collaborative planning. So the very traditional route of having some big pieces of paper on the wall and post-it notes to plan out upcoming activities. Due to the geographical restrictions on site, this didn't work for us. We have a main office 20 minutes away from the site. Everybody's busy. Coming back and forth was a long process. We were holding monthly sessions, which typically took all day, again wasting time. Any data that was captured in these sessions stayed in this location. There was nowhere to store it, nowhere to see it when you're not there. And yeah, it was just very unprofessional. It didn't feel right to be presenting this information to the client. So what we've done, we made a change. We've installed 3 interactive projectors, and we hold all of our collaborative sessions, all of our kind of targeted program sessions in this area, and it allows us to be much more interactive. All the information can be accessed from anywhere, whether that be on site or people working from home. And yeah, everything's kept virtually. We can capture that data and really use it to drive decisions made on site. So some important sessions that we hold in this area is our monthly collaborative planning. So we typically ask main project leaders to come to this, and that's both the subcontractor and the client if they wish. This allows work to still continue on site as we hope, everybody doing their job, but just taking away the key members who can then cascade the information down to their team. It typically takes around 4 hours, and we split the site up locationally, so I have half the site in the morning and half the next day in the morning again. We will run through key activities that are upcoming and any foreseen issues on site, any risks that we anticipating or opportunities that we can look at. And we have particular focus on the key milestones that are upcoming. So there's an example there on the screen of the type of dates that we look at. And it generates very useful information that we can use to plan moving forward, and again makes up part of that life cycle. We also hold shorter weekly sessions, so to ensure that any risks are being captured, we're always on top of things. We look at these weekly. So we do a Wednesday morning, and we don't allow the session to last any longer than 30 minutes. But again, any information that's presented or shared here is accessible at any time from anywhere. So it's not that if somebody isn't available to come to this, they don't get this information. So we typically use 3 main pieces of software. So that is AFEX, a dashboard that we have custom built, and then a free Cs board which captures any of our risks. What we ensure in these sessions is that we have ownership on activities, on risks, so that people can be held accountable, and we can track weekly any progress. So one of the main tools that we use is AFEX. So AFEX is a live planning software that, again, can be accessed anywhere on site by anybody. There's strict control. One of the concerns that a lot of people say to me is that if anybody can have access to this, can they change my plan? That's not the case. Each task has an owner, and only they can amend it, or people that they have assigned to this. The main benefit of using AFEX on site, we have lots of various teams. We have roadworks, structures, earthworks. Everybody has that full visibility, whereas previously there would be software such as Microsoft Project or Excel used for weekly look-aheads. This information isn't live, so it gets sent out week on week, and we need to be reactive to that change, or proactive in making a difference. The data that's generated from AFEX is very important to us. So we look at delayed activities, reasons for delay, and then we want to see the trends that come from that. So we developed a dashboard internally, custom built for the project. This shows delay reasons, PPC, and we can break that down based on subcontractor, location or owner. And it also looks at materials, plan versus actual quantities. And this really drives our collaborative planning sessions. It's available to everybody again. We share this with the client weekly. They've really praised how transparent it is, how easy it is to use, and also subcontractors as well. It is something that was built for the A417, but we've been praised heavily from other projects, and it will be something that we'll be looking at to roll out further. Let's hope this works. Ooh. So video should play. No. If not, no problem. Essentially, it's just looking at, you can dive deep into the detail, so it's not just what's given at face value. So if I were to click on weather there, all of those tasks at the beginning would give me just what's been delayed due to weather. If I were to hover over the activity, it will give me further information on why that task has been delayed, and then we can hold accountable the owner of that, understand what the reasons were, challenge them, or try and put things in place to mitigate the delays. Here you can go into detail, so you can see the locations there of where most delays occurred, and you can break that down into subcontractor and owner as well. We also have a materials tracker which takes quantities from our P6 program. So that looks at how materials are forecasted, and we will compare that to what has actually happened. The baseline program, which is what we initially set out around 2 years ago, and our latest program, and ensure we're on track. The 3Cs board is a very simple but effective way of tracking risk. So concern, cause and countermeasure, and each risk is assigned a severity. We use these in our weekly collab planning sessions to go through line by line, and again the data that is captured from this is live. We use that to understand how many risks are on site, and again holding accountability to the individuals assigned to it. Something else that we use that is really useful is a tool called Propeller. So this is a web-based software that gathers drone data and stitches it together to allow us to look at site while we're away from it. Again, due to the geographics and the large site that we're on, it's not always possible to see all these locations at once. So having that live or near live imagery available to anybody anywhere is brilliant. We can overlay models and designs, as you can see on the bottom image here, and take measurements, cross-sections against the final design to understand where we're at and how we need to move forward. Something that a lot of people are hesitant with in construction, I find, is change. So when we introduced this system, there was always a challenge of people saying, I've used this before and I want to carry on going that way. But it wasn't something that we wanted to do as a team. We were certain on moving forward with AFEX, the data that it generates, and how we can use that data to the success of the project. So we ensured that from the offset, we had the push from the senior leadership team, that was the way, and there's no other way of doing it. There was no using other software and keeping that in the background. This was the only way we were working. We've offered training, we continue to offer training, and we're at the point now where the benefits have outweighed what is available. And everybody can see on site how this system is benefiting the success of the project. Of course, we had teething issues. We always will, but these are overcome, and yeah, we're really working well with it now. Just wanted to give a bit of detail about how these kind of systems actually benefited the project itself. So we touched a little bit already on Shab Valley Underpass. So yeah, this is an area of site which there's a huge amount of work to do. A huge element of fill was the first, but as soon as we hit a certain point, there was a structure to build with earthworks going on around it. Drainage then went in. There's so many people working in one location. So we need to ensure that we're working safely, looking at the risks that are going on around, and yeah, understanding exactly how the program looks. It's an area that sits almost on the critical path. So any delay is going to cause delays to our end date. So something we need to really keep control of. And yeah, through using the systems mentioned, we've progressed really well. You can see in those images there how we started from a deep valley, and now we're at the point where we're backfilling the structure, ready to construct a road on top, and still with lots of different disciplines working in the area. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Lydia.
Hello everyone, I am Lydia and I'm a quality apprentice, well I was the quality apprentice at Kia on the A417. So at Kia, quality isn't at the heart of everything we do, and we take a right first time approach to quality, and the commitment to quality is not just about processes, it's about our people. So in the apprenticeship is exactly a perfect example of how we've invested in our people at Kia. So before the A417, this apprenticeship didn't exist within Kia, and it's that development in our people and our practices is how it has come about. If you wanted any specific information about any specifications, just follow the QR code and it should take you to a link to the Skills England page, and you'll be able to have a lot more detail about what the ins and outs of the apprenticeship is and certain suppliers of it. But essentially it's about developing the skills needed to support quality within the workplace, and it's in line with the Chartered Quality Institute. And by the end of the by the end of the programme, the apprentice is able to confidently support a wide range of quality activities across the project, from auditing, for example, which is something that I'm quite heavily involved in, as well as monitoring observations, non-conformances, and applying those skills in a day-to-day workplace. But the apprenticeship itself opens doors for lots of different future career paths, such as quality advisor, which is the role that I'm in now, quality engineers and or auditors, and then in the future, the pathway for myself would be quality manager. But importantly, Kia is leading the way in this sense. We're the first tier 1 contractor within transportation to offer this apprenticeship pathway. It just shows our real commitment to raising those standards across the industry, which is particularly important in a scheme such as this, where there is lots of sort of different activities happening at the same time. So it is important to have that right first time approach, and ensuring that quality is put at the forefront of our minds. So an example of how we have that quality on site is our integrated quality verification team, so our IQVTs. It stands, so on the A417, it's our boots on the ground approach, and it's a collaborative approach. So it's not just our Kia employees, but it's also, we have national highways, we have our works examiner team, so that's people from Tony G, who are on site with us. And we're all working that collaborative approach, which is something that is kind of pushed and championed by National Highways, our customer. So it's just following the wants and the needs of our customer in that sort of sense. And the aim is to be proactive and rather than reactive. So we want that open door approach to quality. We want our engineers on site to communicate and be open with us. And we've got lots of systems in place on team so that they're on site with the team, so that they're able to notify us and let us know, this is the work that's going on. How about you come and have a look before we're ready, let us know what you think. But however, we have got those formal notifications and processes in place to say, okay, now the work is done, come and have a look. But it reinforces that quality isn't just the responsibility of the quality team, and is shared by everyone delivering that work. So that's, again, that collaborative approach. So all checks that the IQVT team do are just there to make sure that we're following the required specifications, processes, and documentation on site. And then every inspection that we do is logged on our transporter system, which I'll touch on in a minute. And it gives us a reliable, real-time quality data across the project. And then it ensures that we're either closing out or escalating anything that we see on site, and it just creates that continuous loop of information for everybody. Just 2 seconds. So Transportal, it's our common data environment for the quality team, and it's a key tool for capturing our observations, non-conformances, any check sheets, ITPs, and inspection requests. It has all of the digital workflows that we need to make sure that everything is traceable and consistent. Everything is instantly accessible, whether you're on site or whether you're in the office like myself, monitoring this information that comes in. It's a purpose-built kind of system, and we're working with our digital teams to ensure that we're getting the visibility that we need. Just on the slide, you'll have an example there of what it sort of looks like when you open it for the forms view, but obviously we've also got the DMS view as well, which is something that the engineering and the site teams use a lot, but from a quality standpoint, this is the view that you'd get, and you'd be able to see there just a list of the sort of different form types that we've got. I've opened up the bits that in blue, they're the ones that I will use quite often, and that's what I have on my view daily. But because it's digital, obviously we get that real-time view, and then we can see anything that's raised on site, and it can be immediately available to the wider team. So it supports that quick decision making and helps avoid any delays and opens up those lines of communication. So collecting the information consistently gives us a strong base for our problem solving. So, you know, if any issues do need any deeper investigation, we've got all of the information available, and we can see, for example, when the inspection request was put in and how it's all flowed through that workflow, because everything should be stored on this system. So when it comes to anything in terms of non-conformances, we're able to link up the forms and apply 8D root cause analysis because of the way that our forms are being built. It's all designed around that. So it's a really good tool in terms of that connectivity and that workflow. But also using Transportal is brilliant in terms of our carbon reduction goals because everything is paper-based. It's no longer paper-based, it's all digital. It's able to reduce the amount of printing and, you know, that, I can't think of the word now, but essentially we're just reducing our carbon reduction goals there and meeting them by ensuring everything's digital. But overall it's strengthened our quality assurance by ensuring that our workflows are all together. So future focus. So on the A417, we're always looking for how we can improve our systems and quality processes. From the start of the project, the quality teams made big changes on how our data is collected and stored and monitored. So we began with observations raised within paper forms, which slowed down our traceability. And then we had that disjointed workflow. So when we moved everything into Transportal with all our observations and NCRs captured digitally, and then over time this expanded to include our inspection test plans and our all sorts of things like work diaries. It's just become a beast into itself. It's a massive system now where everybody can capture the information that they need and it's all accessible in one place. So we've also now looked at expanding the capabilities of Transportal and we work closely with our digital teams. Just trying to find your digital teams. So this has given us the opportunity to, well, myself as well, work very closely with our guys within the business improvement team, and we've now been able to pull our data, which is actually, you would be surprised, very hard to pull out of a transport system sometimes, but we've been able to manage to work with our digital team to code it appropriately so that we've now got a Power BI. So very similar to Michael and the guys that use AFEX, we're able to drill down into our information and see what we're looking at, root causes, trends, suppliers, and also any of the information that is attached to our non-conformances. We're able to drill down into that and see what we'd like to see in graph format, so it creates that nice visual for us. But this supports our culture of right first time delivery and continuous improvement, because we're always looking for new ways and how we can expand that. So for example, with that Power BI now, we've now opened up opportunities for working within expanding our observation ability to visualize that, as well as our inspection and test plans. So just looking at different ways that we can improve what we've got going on. But yeah, so that was just an overview of what we've got going on at the moment. But we're also really keen to get out there and ensure that we're investing in our audits. So off-site manufacturer audits is something that I've been a part of, and it's actually been something that I found very interesting. It's helped us embed quality at the source rather than waiting for the materials to arrive on site. So just an example of this, on the left is a picture of one of the bridge beams that we had from Shea Murta that was then delivered onto site, and it's now actually been part of the Gloucestershire Way crossing. So it's just been really nice to see that journey of how we've embedded quality at source and how it's now being delivered to site, and it's just a really nice process to have been able to witness. So by carrying out the factory visits and early audits, we've been able to spot issues and support suppliers before anything reached the project. So these early checks have strengthened supplier assurance because we've reviewed compliance documents, processes directly in the factory, so that by the time the material arrived on site, we've already had the confidence that they met the required standards. We've been able to reduce the rework and improve efficiency with our suppliers. For all of our audits as well, we're also paperless, so we use a system called Novade. So this is for both supplier and internal audits. So here we're able to register all our findings, all of our actions, and everything's signed off and captured consistently. And then because the audit process is digital, it also, and completely traceable, it reduces that need for printed checklists, paper copies. It just supports that project-wide carbon reduction goal there as well. So we've also got here just an overview of our right first time results. So on site, as noted by everyone else, we've completed a huge amount of work so far, and naturally not everything will be 100% perfect. That's the reality of the project on this scale. As you can appreciate, it's rather large. But what's important is that because we've got the innovative ways of thinking and doing things, and we're always looking for that continuous improvement, we've managed to monitor quality consistently and maintain a very high levels of first time rate, as demonstrated in the statistics up on the board. But everything across the project so far has been going brilliantly, and all the major works are just, they just showcase that. But thank you. I'll pass over to Gavin now.
Okay, so last section. So hopefully we've kind of addressed a few of those points there that the conference are looking towards in terms of digital and environment, and there's far too much for us to tell you in an hour. As you can see, we're trying to pack it in, but happy to take some questions at the end if there's anything that you'd like us to go into a bit more detail about. But just to kind of finish off, we've done so many things in the environmental kind of sphere, but there's a few that we're particularly proud of. One's biochar. So it's essentially charcoal, so that's a very old technology, but it's been brought into the 21st century through this unit that we've been working with RSK Terrafix on. So landscape-led scheme, but we have to take down some trees to begin with to build a new road. It's not a good look. We're planting a lot more trees than we're taking down, but nonetheless we wanted to make a positive out of a negative there. So a significant portion of the trees that were taken down during the early site clearance phase will pass through this unit. So it's a mobile unit that's brought to site by Terrafix. The trees get chopped up into kind of a mulch, get passed through that unit under low oxygen conditions, and you get a charcoal product at the end called biochar. It's the first time it's been used on a construction site in the UK. It's been used in some other environments previously in the UK, but the first time on the construction site. And RSK did some clever stuff with the engineering of it as well. So they were reusing the heat that was going through that unit. So very much reduced the carbon. So it's a carbon negative process, and we get a product at the end, and that's like black gold. So you can use it in planting trees. We can use it on the green bridge to enhance the water retention, and we're also working with Swansea University to incorporate into drainage filter drains because it's very good at trapping microplastic. So one for the future with National Highways in particular, rubber from tyres produces microplastics. It gets into watercourses. That's a problem. This could be one solution. And then solar power. So Kia made a very big investment, around 700,000, to purchase units for site. So some generators that are solar powered, tower lights that are solar powered, and units for the car park at one of the site offices as well. And I won't go through the numbers, but it pays for itself. And it seems so obvious now, but it's not the first port of call, I think, on a construction site. You go for traditional diesel generators, but it's very much the way forward, and very simple and practical out on site as well. I said we had a lot of snakes, so we had 73 adders relocated from the site. So we undertook lots of studies We sort of analysed the patterns of behaviour of the adders, found out where they were nesting, trapped them, and then translocated them. And that's what I'm sure many schemes that you guys have been involved in would have done. But what we did next was something that was a bit different. So those adders that were moved from site had radio antennas attached to their tails, and we tracked their movements after they were moved. And studying the behaviour with some of our consultants, we were able to determine that they were very happy. So we'd moved them to a new place, and as maybe happens to all of us, moving is one of the most stressful things you can do, isn't it? But we found they behaved normally, they interacted with one another normally, and we were lucky to win the Green Apple Award, but also it's getting taken forward into a master's degree, because I think lots of construction companies say, we will do something with the environment, we will move things. This is proof that that methodology can work in a sympathetic manner. So like I say, we've got a million things, but we haven't got a million minutes. So that's the end. Do a quick Q&A. I think we had the 5-minute warning. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions, please.
So the biochar technology you talked about sounds really... This technology sounds really interesting, and I think one of the issues that we see on our highway schemes with the landscaping is failure of planted trees at the end. Do you think that this will have a positive impact in getting those trees to take by using this?
Yeah, so we're going to do a bit of an experiment. So we've produced 38 tonnes of biochar. Some of that's going to go on the bridge, and then the rest of it's going to be used in selected planting. So we'll plant those trees with biochar and those trees without biochar. And we'll water them in the same way, and we'll look after them in the same way, and we'll assess how many fail or how many thrive, and then we'll be able to get some data, and we can write it up in that master's kind of paper to, the master paper was the adders, beg your pardon, but we'll analyse it, and hopefully proof of concept is there.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Get off the hook. Nice. Okay. No worries. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for listening, and appreciate it. Thank you.